Hello, everyone. Welcome to the sixth episode of Beyond Borders. Today, we have Dr. Michael Collins with us, who is an associate professor at UCL and specializes in modern and contemporary British history.
Namaskar, Satik.
Namaskar.
Namaskar, everybody. Thank you so much for hosting me here in Delhi. It's great to be here.
So, Michael, would you like to shed some light on what you do at UCL?
What I do at UCL? Yes, I do a whole range of different things. So I teach undergraduates, I teach postgraduate taught students, what we call master's students. I have some wonderful PhD researchers. I'm also involved, as you'd expect, in the administration and running of the department. So chairing boards of examiners, marking, planning the curriculum, the whole gamut of things that an academic does. I get my hands dirty on all of those different things.
Okay. So, when you talk about teaching, what is like? We know that you specialize in history.
Yeah.
But what was it that drew you towards Indian history primarily?
What drew me towards Indian history? Okay, that's a good question. So there's this line which is attributed to Salman Rushdie. Well, actually, it's in his novel Satanic Verses, where he says the problem with the English is that their history happened overseas, so they don't understand what it means. So I read that as a younger person, and I thought that's actually a very interesting insight. And so if you want to understand English or British history, maybe you have to actually travel to go beyond borders, to coin a phrase, and find out what those experiences were, what the interactions were that took place. So I was following in the kind of lineage of scholars, people like Professor Catherine Hall, who was a pioneer of these kinds of studies within the UCL history department, and taking that kind of insight on board. And that led me to India to try and find out more, I guess, about my own past and the past of the United Kingdom.
So, other than Salman Rushdie, you also show interest in another Indian writer, a poet, Rabindranath Tagore.
Rabindranath Tagore, yes.
So, in context of your research on Rabindranath Tagore, how would you describe studying Indian history and Indian literature in the West?
So, I first came across Tagore in Kolkata when I was traveling here as a 19, 20-year-old in a slightly cliched backpacking style. I was, moving around, and when I was in West Bengal, in Kolkata, everywhere you go, you see a picture of Tagore on the wall. So, having encountered him in India, I then realized that there were immense resources for studying Tagore in England, in London, across the country, actually, because he had so many social connections and worked on so many different projects. And of course, when he won the Nobel Prize, that then generates a very, very rich archival resource for understanding the Western mindset and how they interpreted and thought about non-Europeans at the time. So there's a huge outpouring in the newspapers and the literary journals of Western intellectuals telling the world what they think about this person. And so actually in doing that, they're bearing their soul, as it were, in terms of the kind of imperial relationship between Britain and India. There's a lot of cultural history and intellectual history to be read into that.
So, other than being a literary figure, Tagore also, like what I could pick from your answer, happens to be a historical symbol or a historical figure as
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, he was a polymath. He worked in so many different sectors. He was very practical in lots of respects. I mean, he built a school, after all, and a university. And the university that he built in Shanti Niketan is called Vishvabharati, right? Which is where the world comes together in one place. So in a sense, he's a kind of iconic figure for your Beyond Borders theme. I spent quite a lot of time in Shanti Niketan, partly because I wanted to really immerse myself in Tagore's world. So I read, hundreds, if not thousands, of his letters in English, which he was a great correspondent. He was writing to all sorts of eminent people across Europe, famously Einstein, but all sorts of people. And that was about getting a very granular understanding of context. In some ways, slightly ironic thing for a historian to say, but one of the things that I really tried to communicate to students in the UCL history department is that, you know, studying history is not just about connections to the past, but sometimes also understanding the difference and the otherness of the past.
So, since you said that there is a traditional view of history, traditional way of seeing history in Britain, there is emphasis on continuity, and you emphasize discontinuity, right? So it just implicates that there is a subjectivity in the way we see history.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So do you think that you, being a PhD scholar from Oxford, did that have to contribute in that? Did that have to contribute in your career, in your academic career?
Yeah, so I did indeed do my PhD from Oxford, but prior to that, I also studied political science and history of political thought or philosophy um, at Cambridge and the London School of Economics. And so I think actually the most important thing for me, the most formative thing for me has been pursuing different disciplines. And that's definitely something that I encourage students to embrace. But for me, it wasn't so much the PhD from Oxford, or DPhil as they call it there. It was the multidisciplinary background that I had, drawing on lots of different subjects, which I think helped me to ask different types of questions when I'm framing a historical investigation now with my work today.
So, since we are having these conversations about academia and history, and research comes into play, like
Sure.
without even asking. So,
Sure.
considering that you have researched heavily on Indo-British relations,
Yeah.
right? What do you think about international education today, and especially in the context of UK and Britain?
UK and Britain. I mean,
No, UK and India. I'm sorry.
UK and India. Yeah. So, I mean, as I see things today, I think that education partnership and exchange of students is probably the number one, benefit for the UK and India moving ahead. I think that it's a great strength that we have. Both countries have fantastic higher education systems. I think in the UK, and certainly I can speak for UCL, you know, we are really appreciating and understanding that India is a peer. You know, India is a partner in an education future, and that comes through in a lot of the collaborations that that are underway between UCL and Indian institutions. We've partnered with fantastic higher education universities here, IIT, AIMS, the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, on really amazing kind of innovative projects around all sorts of things to do with environment, new technologies. And the really key thing there, I think, and in a sense, this comes back to what I said about history, is to understand the difference between the present and the past. You know, this is now a new world where India is an education powerhouse. And it's very important for the UK to understand that it's operating in that environment. And I think that can be mutually beneficial to both countries. A graduate, for example, called Udit Singhal, who just graduated from Management Sciences in 2023 at UCL. And he is one of the kind of global entrepreneurs. He's, I think, in top 30 in Forbes young entrepreneurs. And he has invented a methodology for turning glass into sand, which has, I think, huge environmental impacts. So what I'm saying is it's about the reciprocal relationships. It's about partnering with Indian institutions and having these brilliant Indian students come to the UK, but then they come back and share that knowledge with India. And I think that's something which can make both countries better off moving forward.
So, since you have commented on students and Indian students studying in the UK, how do you think is the student experience in UCL?
The student experience at UCL is absolutely incredible. I mean, we have almost 50,000 students. That's a very large number. And you might be thinking, gosh, big is not always best. But remember that we are right at the center of, and here I will be a little partisan, probably one of the most exciting cities in the world. I mean, London is really where the magic happens. We have students from all over the world, but they are embracing London. They are doing so many different things you'd expect around sports and arts and culture, but then they are actually engaged with the economy, the society, and the culture of London, which is constantly changing. I mean, Samuel Johnson said in the 18th century, if you're tired of London, you're tired of life. And I've just said we should be thinking about change and discontinuity, not. But I think that insight still is relevant. London is such a dynamic city, and Indian students coming to London embrace the amazing array of opportunities that they have. And the campus and student life is astonishingly diverse in terms of the societies that we have and the cultural contributions that people make.
Right.
Yeah.
So would you agree that UCL is a culturally diverse space?
Very much, very much. And I think I can also give you some examples of how we are trying to kind of make that a reality rather than just, it's an easy thing to say, oh, we're a diverse place. Okay, so when Indian students come to England, I think they will want to see cutting edge insights and innovations from India reflected in our approaches, and they will see that. I can speak for the history department. We've undergone a long process of what we call decolonizing the curriculum. And that means looking at which authors we cite, what kind of topics we teach, and also really enlarging the scope of our research and teaching. So historically, we tended to focus on Europe and North America, but over the last decade, we've become a truly sort of global history department. We have specializations in the Middle East, in India. So I think diversity is embedded in our pedagogy, in our curriculum. I'm also, I have to say, very, very proud of the fact that our provost is leading a really interesting project at UCL called Disagreeing Well. Disagreeing Well is an attempt to ask ourselves as scholars and as students, as members of an academic community, what it really means to listen to, hear, and understand other perspectives without engaging in the immediate sort of culture wars that I think are really kind of damaging a lot of academic communities around the world. This is obviously a global phenomenon. This is not a UCL thing. It's happening in India. It's happening in the United States of America, across Europe, and so on. But it does require leadership to push students and scholars to really address that agenda. UCL was founded in 1826. It's the third oldest university in England, but it was founded with a very specific purpose. So at that moment in time, Oxford and Cambridge were Anglican-only universities. So they were not only for Christians, but members of the Church of England. And it wasn't until the 1850s that Oxford and Cambridge engaged with a wider process of what we called then Catholic emancipation, to admit Catholics into the university. But when UCL was founded, I mean, diversity is in its DNA, if you will, because it was founded as an institution which welcomed people from all religious faiths, and none, in fact, but obviously mostly a religious observance from other world religions, which is why actually even in the 19th century, it was a very popular place for Indians to come and study. Hence Tagore, Gandhi studying at UCL, and many other people. So, it's a story about our origins, but I like to think that it rings true in the present, and that the new provost of UCL, Dr. Michael Spence, is really showing genuine national and global leadership on that particular agenda.
So, since you were talking about cultural diversity,
yes,
I'm assuming there has been a diversity in specializations as well, because you mentioned this one course during our conversation about environmental history that literally goes beyond borders.
Yes.
Right? Do you think that in comparison to STEM courses or business and administration courses, like there has been a change in the perception of liberal arts, that these are, if not specifically lucrative in the conventional way, but these are genuine disciplines that should be studied for the betterment of humankind. Do you think there has been a change in that perception?
I believe so, and also, when I'm here in India working on my next book project, I talk to people and try to get a sense of what the thinking is here, and I think there's a very exciting shift where people are understanding that the jobs of the future, the jobs of the present, frankly speaking, but particularly the jobs of the future, require us to embrace knowledge, which is almost unknown at this point. In other words, we need to prepare students with the sort of analytical and problem-solving skills that enable them to solve problems in the future, which we don't recognize at this point in time. So that requires creative thinking, making connections between disciplines, intellectual, methodological flexibility. And liberal arts is a great kind of program or area of study to engender that kind of approach. Firstly, you can take options from lots of different departments. So I could speak about the Faculty of Social and Historical Sciences at UCL. We have world-leading departments in anthropology, history, geography, economics, and so on. And if you're studying liberal arts, you can draw on all of those things, as well as the Faculty of Arts and Humanities, where we do English, philosophy. So there's that very sort of interdisciplinary kind of approach. But we also recently have developed some very bespoke degree programs, which I think speak to some of the needs of our age. So, for example, we have a BSc in philosophy and computer science, which is great because, that's not just learning the computer science content, it's also asking the questions about why are we doing this? What are we actually doing? What are the social and cultural implications of what we're doing? And I think that is where you get not just the good citizen of the future, but also the really kind of groundbreaking thinker as well. The Googles and the Facebooks, it's not just about the tech, it's also about the cultural and the philosophical questions that go alongside that. And of course, UCL pioneers in things like nanotechnology, artificial intelligence. All of those areas of study require reflection, philosophical and moral questions if we're to harness those technologies for good human ends.
Are there any other emerging specializations in the field of liberal arts in UCL that you would like to put some emphasis
So I know
on?
that we have a BA degree in creative humanities, which is working with literature, performing arts, but also is kind of oriented towards future professional expertise in theatre, museum creation, heritage, all of those kinds of things. Develop programs of study which really drive job creation as well. So it's about exploring and all the things I've just talked about, but it's important that people have professional expertise as well that enable them to get excellent jobs at the end of the program.
Right, so I think we have everything covered. I think this is the last question. So is there anything that you would like to share with younger academics who are willing to pursue the higher education from UCL?
From UCL, I think I would encourage young people who are thinking about studying at UCL or in the UK more generally to really kind of do their research, to think carefully about what they want to do and why and where. To that end, UCL has just launched a summer school program. So we'll be running a summer school in Delhi in June 2024. And we hope to actually run a similar program in 25 and 26. And the purpose of that is to bring UCL professors from London to India in the spirit of partnership that I expressed earlier on, so that Indian students can really kind of get a better sense of what we do, of what learning at a world-class university really is.
I think we still have time for our rapid fire questions.
Rapid fire,
right?
okay.
So I'm going to ask you some questions and you'll have to answer them as quickly as possible.
Okay.
So, ready?
I'm ready.
Let's go. Do you have a favorite Indian cricketer?
Oh, I have so many. Jasprit Bumrah.
Okay. Which team has won the most World Cup tournaments?
In cricket?
Yes.
Australia.
Name the Indian freedom fighter who's also a UCL alumnus.
Oh, that must be Gandhi.
Yes.
Okay.
Who wrote the Indian national anthem?
Rabindranath Tagore. He also wrote the Bangladeshi national anthem.
Yes. India's national sport is cricket. True or false?
False.
Which Bengali sweet dish is your favorite?
I have to say Rasgulla.
Okay.
How many did I score?
You were right all of them. So yeah, I think 6 on 6, I guess. Thank you so much, Michael, for joining us today and for this interactive session. And thank you so much for watching this video. And we'll see you in the next episode. If you have any questions about studying abroad, please drop them in the comments and we'll make sure that we reach out to you. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.